villages in the nation went in for a knee surgery.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
We know, the numerous benefits that breastfeeding has in this for the survival and the health and the well-being of infants. But unfortunately, many more infants are not benefiting from optimal breastfeeding. That is, being put on the breast within the first hour of birth, exclusively breastfeeding, for them benefiting from breast milk for the first 6 months of life, and continued breastfeeding beyond 2 years, in addition to complementary feeding. So what does this have? Kenya is losing so much. There is a cost that our infants are paying, and this cost they are paying in terms of mortalities. And it was evident during the Kenya Demographic Health Survey, when you look at data, particularly on neonatal mortality rates, that did not change. Whereas the older, mortality among older children, that changed significantly, or in a good measure. So our neonatal mortality rate, and these are deaths of infants within the first 28 days of life. We just made a 1% drop from 22%, from 22 deaths per 1,000 live births to 21 deaths per 1,000 live births. So what implication does this have? What it means is that Kenya, we are most likely not going to hit our SDG targets by the year 2013, as far as neonatal mortality is concerned. And when you look at this in terms of high impact intervention, exclusive breastfeeding is one of the interventions that rates highly. Similarly, when it comes to exclusive breastfeeding rates, actually we dropped by 1 percentage point when you look at our statistics. So it means that we, as a stakeholder or as breastfeeding champions, we need to reach out to other stakeholders or to other to other sectors.
If only we can promote breastfeeding, it would prevent about 57% of all the admissions that are related to the respiratory infections. Talking about the many children that are admitted in this country every other day in the pediatric wards because they are suffering from pneumonia, because they are suffering from upper respiratory tract infections and all such diseases of the respiratory systems. So if only we can reduce the admissions by promoting breastfeeding, then it is an intervention that I would call upon all of us to work hard to ensure that it is done. Beyond the upper respiratory tract infection, just to note that breastfeeding also plays a very important role as far as the diarrhea prevention is concerned. So you look at the admissions that we have for the children in the country, so many of them are related to diarrhea, respiratory tract infections, and we have so many children every single morning queuing up at the health facilities because of such related diseases. So if only we are able to promote breastfeedings in our midst, then it is one way of helping the government to cut costs as far as breastfeeding and as far as the healthcare is concerned. If you cut cost on the hospitalization, cut cost on the National Health Insurance Fund, cut costs related to the healthcare workers that must be employed to do this work, it will be such a saving for our government. And what role does the workplace support for breastfeeding play in that? It is important for us to note that when we support our mothers when they are pregnant, even before they get to deliver, and we give them a friendly environment so that they are able to go for the antenatal care as frequently as recommended by the healthcare officers, and then they get the care that they require, then they are also prepared for breastfeeding. And once we help them also at the workplace to ensure that they feel appreciated, so they have a space for them to rest, have a space for them to eat what is required of them, have a space for them to feel like they are supported, then we can be sure we are going to get better, healthy children in this country. And as soon as then they are delivered, because the mothers will have benefited from the kind of information that we said to them, then those mothers can also be in a position to support breastfeeding as expected.
Now we are all guided by research, and we have recommendation by the leading international agencies in terms of infant and young child feeding, that is UNICEF and WHO. My colleagues have said about initiation of breastfeeding within the first hour of birth, exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, and continued breastfeeding with introduction of complementary feed for 2 years or beyond. But how are we doing as a country? For a long time, since 2014, we were at 61% of children being exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months. When we did the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey that was released this year, tuko tu hapo. And that's why we need this engagement, so that we see how then do we make sure that every Kenyan child receives this gold standard of infant nutrition, the breast milk. And it takes you and us to be able to tell the general public about the benefits of breastfeeding. Well, but what has the government done? We all know the role of the government is creating an enabling environment, legal policy. Yes, we have good policies in place, good legislation in place. We have starting with our constitution, Article 53, 1C, about basic, every child has a right to basic nutrition. For us, the basic nutrition for a child or an infant, 0 to 6 months, is breast milk. And therefore, that child has the constitutional right to receive that gold standard of nutrition. The Children's Act that was passed last year talks about we have to look at the best interest of the child. So for the infant who are voiceless, then we are there to make sure that the best interest of that child prevails. Again, 0 to 6 months, the best interest of that child is breast milk. We also have, because majority of women also work, almost half of the women are working. And what does that mean in terms of successful breastfeeding? Women have to go back to work before the 6 months, and therefore we have to create that enabling environment for them to continue breastfeeding even when they go back to work. And that's why the Employment Act 2007, Article 29, provides for maternity leave for 90 days with full pay. For us who did childbearing a while ago, we didn't have that privilege. It was a matter of sacrificing your annual leave to be your maternity leave. And therefore, attaining the 6 months was really a tall order. But now with the 90 days full pay, and with also the provision of providing nursing breaks to nursing employees who return to work, then we have seen it is possible to continue and sustain breastfeeding for the first 6 months.